The Grand Chamber of the United Nations fell silent as the holographic projection materialized. Standing 12 feet tall, the alien diplomat's crystalline form sparkled under Earth's artificial lights. Lord Bright, ambassador of the Stellar Alliance, looked down at the assembled human leaders with barely concealed disdain. Commander Tom Wilson stood at attention near the back wall, watching the proceedings with growing unease. This was humanity's fourth meeting with the Alliance, and each session had grown progressively more condescending. "Your species shows potential," Lord Bright announced, his translated voice echoing through the chamber. "However, your spacecraft are concerning. We've analyzed your vessels, and frankly, they're embarrassing." A murmur of discontent rippled through the human delegates. Wilson's jaw tightened, but he maintained his professional composure. The alien ambassador waved his hand, projecting images of Earth's best ships alongside Alliance vessels. The difference was stark. Where human ships were bulky, with visible repair panels and external support structures, Alliance ships were sleek crystalline masterpieces that seemed to defy physics. "Look at these crude constructions," Lord Bright continued, highlighting the U.S. Defender, Earth's flagship. "Primitive metals, exposed maintenance hatches, and visible welding seams. They're little more than tin cans held together by hope and what you call duct tape." Several Alliance officials in the chamber laughed, their crystalline bodies chiming like bells. "Our ships," Lord Bright gestured to an image of an Alliance cruiser, "are grown, not built. Perfect crystalline structures capable of faster-than-light travel without your crude engines. They require no maintenance, no repairs, no unsightly panels or hatches." Wilson watched as Admiral Baker, head of Earth's Space Command, stepped forward. "Ambassador, with respect, our ships have served us well. They're practical, efficient, and primitive," Lord Bright interrupted. "Your entire approach to space travel is fundamentally flawed. You designed for failure. Your ships have redundant systems, repair capabilities, and emergency protocols. True advanced civilization builds ships that don't need such crutches." The Admiral's face reddened, but he held his tongue. Wilson understood the strategy. Let them underestimate us. It was better than revealing their true capabilities. Another Alliance official, shorter but no less elegant, stepped forward. "We've calculated that your most advanced vessel would last approximately 3 minutes in a conflict with even our smallest scout ship. The structural integrity of your hulls is laughable." Wilson thought about the classified reports sitting on his desk back at Space Command. Reports about the new adaptive armor systems, the revolutionary damage control protocols, and the intentional design philosophies that the Alliance clearly didn't understand. But those were secrets worth keeping, at least for now. "In the interest of galactic safety," Lord Bright declared, "we propose restricting human vessels to your local solar system until you can develop more appropriate technology. We cannot risk your fragile ships breaking apart in civilized space lanes." The chamber erupted in protests. Wilson watched as human diplomats argued against the proposal, citing sovereignty and rights of exploration. But he also noticed something interesting. A few junior Alliance officials studying the human ship designs with what looked like genuine curiosity. As the meeting devolved into heated debates about travel restrictions and technology sharing, Wilson slipped out of the chamber. In his pocket, his communicator buzzed with a message from Space Command. "Outer Rim Pirate Activity, Einsereasing, Alliance losses mounting. Prepare for potential deployment." Wilson smiled slightly. Perhaps sooner rather than later, the Alliance would learn why human ships were built the way they were. Sometimes, the simplest solutions were the most effective, and sometimes, being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The long game was patience. Let them mock Earth's ships. Let them believe in the superiority of their perfect, unbreakable vessels. The truth would reveal itself when it needed to. As Wilson walked back to headquarters, he couldn't help but think that the Alliance's perfect ships had one major flaw. They'd never learned to bend. And in space, something that couldn't bend would eventually break. Deep within Space Command's testing facility, Commander Wilson walked alongside Lord Bright, who had requested a closer inspection of human shipbuilding techniques. The Alliance ambassador's crystalline form reflected the harsh workshop lights as they approached the U.S. Defender in dry dock. "Explain these gaps in your hull design," Lord Bright demanded, pointing at the visible seams between armor plates. Chief Engineer Mike Roberts, a man with grease-stained hands and 20 years of experience, stepped forward. "Those aren't gaps, Ambassador. They're expansion joints." Expansion joints. Lord Bright's translated voice carried a note of confusion. "Watch this," Roberts said, pressing a button on his tablet. A small section of the hull shifted, plates sliding and adjusting like scales on a fish. "Our ships are designed to move, to flex. Space isn't gentle, and neither is combat." Lord Bright's crystalline form shimmed with what seemed like amusement. "Our ships require no such crude adjustments. They are perfect from the moment they're grown." Wilson noticed Roberts hide a small smile. "Sir, would you like to see our repair demonstration?" Before the ambassador could respond, Roberts signaled to his team. A controlled plasma burst struck a section of the Defender's hull, leaving a smoking hole. Lord Bright stepped back in alarm, but what happened next made his crystalline form vibrate with surprise. 3 repair drones immediately swarmed the damage. Within minutes, they had sealed the breach, replaced the damaged plate, and restored full integrity to the section. The entire process took less than 5 minutes. "Impossible," Lord Bright whispered. "Your technology level shouldn't allow." "With respect, Ambassador," Wilson interrupted, "there's a lot about human ships you don't understand. We don't build them to be perfect. We build them to survive." In another section of the facility, they watched as engineers demonstrated the ship's controlled destruction systems. When faced with catastrophic damage, sections of the hull could be deliberately separated, preventing damage from spreading while maintaining life support in critical areas. "But this is accepting failure," Lord Bright protested. "Alliance ships never need to account for such damage. They are impervious to." An alert blared through the facility. Cutting off his words, Wilson's communicator lit up with an urgent message. He read it quickly, his expression growing serious. "Ambassador," he said, "we've just received word that 3 Alliance crystal ships were destroyed by pirates in the Outer Rim. No survivors." Lord Bright's form clouded with distress. "Impossible. Our ships are perfect." "They cannot be." "Perfect things shatter, Ambassador," Roberts said quietly. "Imperfect things adapt." As if to demonstrate his point, the engineer triggered another system test. They watched as sections of the Defender's hull rippled and shifted, changing their angle to deflect incoming fire. The armor wasn't trying to be impervious. It was designed to redirect energy, to bend rather than break. "Your ships are beautiful," Wilson acknowledged. "But beauty isn't everything in space. Those pirates you're fighting, they don't care about perfect crystalline structures. They care about results." Lord Bright studied the Defender with new eyes. "These repair capabilities, how quickly can they be deployed in actual combat?" "Faster than you've seen here," Roberts replied. "And that's just one of our primitive systems." The ambassador's next words seemed to cost him considerable effort. Perhaps the Alliance's assessment of human technology has been incomplete." Wilson nodded respectfully, but his mind was already on the reports of pirate activity. Soon, very soon, the Alliance would learn why humans built their ships to bend and flex, to break in controlled ways and repair quickly. They would learn why humanity embraced imperfection as a strength. As they concluded the tour, Lord Bright paused. "Commander Wilson, if the pirate attacks continue, would Earth consider sending ships to assist the Alliance?" Wilson met the ambassador's gaze steadily. "We would be honored to help, Ambassador. After all, sometimes the best defense isn't an unbreakable shield. It's knowing how to get back up after taking a hit." The imperfect, practical nature of human engineering was about to prove its worth in ways the Alliance never expected. The emergency alert sounded through Alliance Central Command, its crystalline walls pulsing with red warning lights. On the main display, 3 more Alliance ships vanished from the tactical map, their signals going dark in the outer rim. Commander Wilson stood with his arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold. The Alliance had finally requested Earth's help, though their pride had made it a technical consultation rather than a direct plea for military aid. "That's the 3rd attack this week," Admiral Baker said, pointing to the map. "The pirates are getting bolder." Lord Bright's crystalline form had lost some of its shine. "Our patrols are being systematically destroyed. We don't understand how they're bypassing our shields." Wilson studied the attack patterns. The pirates were smart. They'd figured out that Alliance ships, for all their beauty and power, had one critical weakness. They couldn't take a punch. "Ambassador," Wilson said carefully, "would you accept an escort from Earth's ships?" Several Alliance officials chimed in protest, but Lord Bright raised a hand for silence. "You believe your vessels could survive where ours cannot?" "We'd like to try," Wilson replied simply. 24 hours later, the U.S. Defender led a convoy of 3 Earth ships alongside 2 Alliance cruisers. Wilson stood on the bridge, watching the sensor readings carefully. They were entering known pirate territory. The first attack came without warning. A massive energy surge struck one of the Alliance cruisers, its perfect crystalline surface starting to crack. But before the pirates could land a killing blow, the U.S. Defender moved into position. "Impact in 3 seconds," the tactical officer announced calmly. The pirate's weapon struck the Defender's hull and seemed to ripple across it like water. The ship shuddered, armor plates flexing and absorbing the energy. Damage control teams were already moving, reinforcing weakened sections. "Impossible." The Alliance captain's voice crackled over the comm. "That shot should have torn through your hull." Wilson allowed himself a small smile. "That's why we build them to bend, Captain." "Return fire." The Defender's weapons might have looked crude to Alliance eyes, but they were devastatingly effective. While the pirates focused on the seemingly weaker Earth ships, they failed to notice they were being drawn into a carefully planned trap. "Now," Wilson ordered. All 3 Earth ships executed a maneuver that would have torn an Alliance vessel apart. They deliberately vented atmosphere from specific sections, using the explosive decompression as both propulsion and weapon. The pirates, expecting standard tactics, were caught completely off guard. "Their shields are calibrated for energy weapons," Wilson explained to the stunned Alliance observers. "They never expected us to use physics itself as a weapon." The battle lasted less than 15 minutes. When it was over, the pirate ships were disabled or retreating, and the Earth vessels were damaged but fully functional. The Alliance cruisers had barely needed to fire a shot. Later, in the debriefing room, Lord Bright studied the battle footage with new respect. "Your ships, they took hits that would have shattered our best vessels. Yet they continued fighting." "That's because we expect to get hit," Wilson explained. "We planned for it. Every panel, every system is designed not to prevent damage, but to control how we take damage." The footage showed repair drones swarming over the Earth ships even during combat, sealing breaches and replacing damaged plates in real time. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. "The pirates will be back," Admiral Baker warned. "They'll adapt their tactics." "So will we," Wilson replied. "That's what humans do best." Lord Bright's form seemed to pulse with thought. Perhaps the Alliance has been too rigid in its thinking, too focused on perfection rather than practicality. As the meeting concluded, Wilson received a priority message from Earth Command. More pirate activity had been detected, but this time on an unprecedented scale. They were massing for something big. The real test of human engineering was about to begin, and Wilson couldn't help but think that the Alliance was finally starting to understand. Sometimes the strongest ships weren't the ones that never got hit, but the ones that knew how to take a hit and keep fighting. The Alliance Council chamber erupted in chaos as the emergency transmission played on all screens. Dozens of pirate warships were tearing through the Outer Rim's defenses, and the Alliance's mighty crystalline fleet was shattering like glass. "They're targeting our structural weak points," an Alliance admiral reported, his crystalline form clouded with distress. 17 capital ships lost in the last hour alone. Commander Wilson watched the tactical display with growing concern. The pirates had adapted their strategy. They weren't just raiding anymore. This was a full-scale invasion. "The Alliance formally requests Earth's immediate military assistance," Lord Bright announced, his pride finally breaking under the weight of necessity. "All of it." Wilson's response was immediate. "Earth Command has already mobilized the fleet. The U.S. Defender will lead 30 ships to your aid." 30. Lord Bright's form flickered in disbelief. "The pirates have over 200 vessels." "Numbers aren't everything, Ambassador," Wilson replied, already moving toward the door. "Sometimes the best hammer isn't the biggest one." Within hours, Earth's primitive fleet emerged from jump points near the conflict zone. The sight was far from impressive. Battle-scarred ships with visible repair marks and patched hulls. Compared to the remaining Alliance vessels, they looked like junkyard refugees. The pirates, seeing the human ships arrive, actually paused their assault. Their commander opened a channel to mock them. "You're sending these scrap heaps against us." The pirate leader laughed. "We've been destroying perfect Alliance ships. What chance do you think you have?" Wilson's response was calm. "That's the thing about perfection. It only has to break once. Computer, initiate Battle Plan Delta." What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each moving in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were precisely calculated. The pirates fired their advanced weapons, the same ones that had been shattering Alliance ships with ease. But the human ships didn't shatter. They bent. They flexed. Armor plates absorbed and redistributed energy. When sections were damaged, they were sealed off and repaired, even in the middle of combat. The ships moved like living things, adapting to each attack. "How is this possible?" The Alliance admiral watched in amazement. "They're taking hits that would destroy our best ships. Because we designed them to," Wilson explained, as the Defender shrugged off another direct hit. "Your ships are built to be perfect. Ours are built to endure." The pirates grew frustrated. Their tactics, so effective against the Alliance's crystalline fleet, seemed useless against these ugly, resilient vessels. Every time they thought they'd critically damaged a human ship, it would repair itself and rejoin the fight. "Their shields are failing," Wilson's tactical officer reported. "They're not used to prolonged engagements. They expected quick kills." That was the key difference. The pirates, used to fighting Alliance ships, had optimized for single, devastating strikes. But human ships could take punch after punch and keep coming. "All ships, execute Maneuver Bravo 6, Wilson commanded. "Show them why we build our ships the way we do." The human fleet moved as one, deliberately taking hits on their strongest armor sections while maneuvering into perfect firing positions. The pirates, having exhausted their primary weapons against ships that refused to die, found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned. "This is impossible," the pirate leader's voice crackled over the comm. "Your ships are inferior. They're primitive." "No," Wilson replied, as human ships surrounded the pirate fleet. "They're practical. And sometimes practical beats perfect. All ships, open fire." The battle that followed would change the galaxy's understanding of space warfare forever. Earth's primitive fleet, ships that the Alliance had mocked for years, systematically took apart a pirate force more than 6 times their size. As the last pirate ships fled or surrendered, Lord Bright turned to Wilson. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "the Alliance needs to reconsider its definition of advanced technology." Wilson nodded, already focusing on damage reports. The fleet was battered but intact, exactly as their designers had intended. The real question now was whether the Alliance would learn from this lesson, or if their pride would remain as rigid as their crystal ships. In the massive repair bay of the Alliance's central station, engineers from both species gathered around a holographic display of the recent battle. The U.S. Defender's hull bore dozens of fresh scars, each telling its own story of survival. Chief Engineer Roberts pointed to a particularly damaged section. "See this? The armor didn't just absorb the hit, it channeled the energy through these planned failure points." The Alliance engineers, their crystalline forms gleaming with interest, crowded closer. One of them, designated Technical Master First, spoke up. "But surely allowing any failure is a sign of inferior design." Roberts smiled and pressed a button. The damaged section of hull pulled itself apart, revealing layers of systems beneath. "Watch this." The Alliance engineers watched in amazement as repair drones swarmed through the intentional gaps, replacing damaged components and reinforcing weakened areas. The entire process took less than 10 minutes. "Your ships," Technical Master First said slowly, "they're not just vessels. They're more like living things." Commander Wilson, standing at the back of the room, nodded. "That's exactly right. They grow stronger after every battle. Each repair teaches us something new." The display shifted to show the pirate fleet's attack patterns. The advanced weapons that had shattered Alliance ships had largely bounced off the human vessel's adaptive armor. What damage they did cause was quickly repaired. But the energy readings from their weapons, another Alliance engineer chimed in, "they should have pierced your hulls completely." Roberts walked over to a nearby workbench and picked up a piece of human hull plating. "Try to break it," he offered. The Alliance engineer focused his energy manipulators on the plate. Instead of shattering, the metal bent, absorbed the force, and then slowly returned to its original shape. "We don't try to be unbreakable," Wilson explained. "We try to be unbeatable. There's a difference." Lord Bright, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "Show them the maintenance costs comparison." A holographic display change, showing maintenance logs for both fleets. The Alliance ships required complete replacement when damaged, while human ships could be repaired indefinitely, growing stronger with each fix. "Your ships," Lord Bright admitted, "cost 1/10 of ours to maintain, despite taking far more damage in battle." The discussion was interrupted by an alert. Long-range sensors had detected the remaining pirate fleet regrouping. They were adapting their tactics, preparing for another assault. "They think they've learned how to counter our ships," Wilson said, studying the tactical display. "They don't understand that every hit we take makes us stronger." Roberts pulled up the design specs for the U.S. Defender's next refit. "We've already incorporated lessons from the last battle. The new armor configuration can handle 30% more stress." The Alliance engineers studied the specifications with growing respect. Where their own ships were static, unchanged from the moment they were grown, human ships evolved with every engagement. "There's an old Earth saying," Wilson told the gathered engineers, "what doesn't kill you makes you stronger." We built our entire fleet around that principle. Lord Bright's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been embarrassment. "We mocked your ships for having visible repairs, for showing signs of damage and age. We didn't understand that these were badges of honor, proof of survival." As if to demonstrate his point, a repair crew nearby began installing a new armor plate on the Defender. The plate was slightly darker than its neighbors, clearly visible against the older hull sections. "We could paint it to match," Roberts said, noting the Alliance engineer's attention. "But why hide it? Every mismatched plate tells a story of survival." The tactical display blinked again. The pirates were moving, but this time they seemed hesitant, their formation less aggressive. They had learned to fear these supposedly primitive ships that refused to die. Wilson smiled slightly. Sometimes the greatest strength came not from being invincible, but from knowing how to take a hit and keep fighting. It was a lesson humanity had learned long ago, and one they were now teaching to the galaxy. The tactical room aboard the U.S. Defender hummed with tension as the pirate fleet approached. This time, they came with modified weapons, specially designed to counter human ship defenses. "They think they've solved the puzzle," Commander Wilson said, studying the enemy formation. "They don't realize our weakness is our strength." Lord Bright, who had insisted on being present for this battle, watched nervously. "Their energy signatures are different. They've recalibrated their weapons to penetrate your adaptive armor." Wilson smiled. "Good. That's exactly what we wanted them to think. All ships, initiate Operation Trojan." The human fleet split into 3 groups, appearing to protect their damaged sections. The pirates, seeing what they thought was weakness, took the bait. "Enemy fleet is closing," the tactical officer reported. "They're targeting our weakened areas." "Perfect," Wilson said. "Prepare for controlled decompression maneuver." The Alliance observers watched in confusion as human ships deliberately opened specific hull sections to space. It seemed like suicide, until the tactic's brilliance became clear. The explosive decompression was carefully controlled, creating powerful jets of debris and gas. The pirates' advanced targeting systems, calibrated for ships trying to maintain hull integrity, were completely confused by vessels deliberately breaking themselves apart. "Now," Wilson commanded, "all ships, execute pinwheel formation." The human fleet began to spin, using the momentum from their controlled decompressions to move in ways that should have been impossible. Debris from their damaged sections created a cloud that played havoc with pirate sensors. "This is madness," Lord Bright whispered. "You're intentionally damaging your ships to gain tactical advantage." "Sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet," Wilson replied, using an old Earth saying. "Watch this." The human ships, now positioned perfectly thanks to their unconventional maneuver, opened fire. Their weapons weren't as advanced as the pirates, but they didn't need to be. The pirates had sacrificed shield strength to power their new anti-armor weapons, a fatal mistake. "Their shields are calibrated wrong," the tactical officer reported with satisfaction. "They expected us to adapt our defenses, not our offense." The battle turned into a demonstration of human ingenuity. Every time the pirates thought they had found a weakness to exploit, it turned out to be a trap. Damaged sections were used as weapons. Failing systems became tactical advantages. "Look at these readings," an Alliance engineer said, monitoring the battle. "The humans are using their repair systems as weapon platforms. The very drones fixing their ships are also disrupting enemy targeting." The pirate fleet, caught completely off guard by tactics they couldn't understand, began to break formation. Their sophisticated weapons, designed to crack open human ships with single shots, proved useless against vessels that were deliberately cracking themselves open in controlled ways. "Send the message," Wilson ordered. "Let's end this." The communication was brief. "To the pirate fleet, you spent so much time learning to break our ships that you forgot something important. We're already broken. We're broken in exactly the ways we choose to be. Surrender or retreat. This is your only warning." The pirates, their carefully planned strategy in ruins, chose to flee. Their advanced engines pushed them into faster-than-light speed, leaving behind a handful of disabled ships. Lord Bright's crystalline form shimmered with amazement. "You turned your greatest weakness into your greatest strength." Every disadvantage became an advantage. Wilson nodded, already coordinating repair efforts. "That's the thing about humans, Ambassador. We don't try to be perfect. We just try to be better today than we were yesterday." The Alliance observers watched as human repair crews swarmed over their ships, not just fixing damage, but improving systems based on battle data. Each scar, each repair, made them stronger. "Perhaps," Lord Bright said thoughtfully, "the Alliance has been pursuing the wrong kind of perfection all along." The battle was over, but its lessons would reshape galactic warfare forever. Sometimes the strongest fighter wasn't the one who never got hit. It was the one who knew how to take a hit and make it count. 1 year after the decisive battle with the pirates, the Grand Hall of the Stellar Alliance looked very different. Where once perfect crystalline walls had stood unblemished, now there were patches of human-designed adaptive materials. The change was symbolic of a larger transformation throughout Alliance space. Commander Wilson stood before the Alliance Council, completing his presentation on the integration of human engineering principles into galactic ship design. "And that concludes our first year of technological cooperation," Wilson said, gesturing to the statistics on the main display. "Pirate attacks are down 80%. Fleet maintenance costs have been reduced by 60%. And most importantly, crew survival rates have increased by 90%. Lord Bright, now the head of the newly formed Human Alliance Engineering Division, stepped forward. His crystalline form had been modified with patches of human metals, a physical representation of the merger between their technologies. "A year ago, we mocked human ships as primitive," Lord Bright addressed the council. "We called them ugly, crude, and unworthy of space travel. We were wrong." The display showed images of the new hybrid ships. They combined the elegant crystalline structures of Alliance vessels with the practical, adaptable design of human engineering. They weren't as pretty as pure Alliance ships, but they were far more effective. "The pirates taught us an expensive lesson," an Alliance admiral admitted. "Perfect beauty means nothing if your ship shatters in its first real battle." Technical Master First, now sporting several human-designed improvements to his crystalline form, brought up the combat statistics. "The new hybrid ships have survived attacks that would have destroyed our old vessels 3 times over, and unlike our previous ships, they grow stronger with each battle." Wilson watched as repair drones, a mix of Alliance crystal technology and human engineering, moved through the hall, maintaining the new adaptive sections. It was another sign of how much had changed. But perhaps the most important lesson, Lord Bright continued, wasn't about technology at all. It was about perspective. The display showed footage from the famous battle, where human ships had turned their weaknesses into strengths. Several young Alliance officers could be seen taking notes, studying tactics that would have been considered absurd a year ago. "Humanity taught us that true strength isn't about being unbreakable," Lord Bright said. "It's about how you handle being broken, how you learn, adapt, and grow stronger." Wilson stepped forward again. "And the Alliance taught us the value of pushing beyond what we thought possible. Together, we've created something better than either of us could have achieved alone." The council chamber's walls shifted slightly, the new adaptive sections adjusting to optimize the room's acoustics, another small but significant change brought by human influence. "The pirates have retreated to the farthest reaches of known space," Wilson reported. "They've learned that our ships, like our Alliance, grow stronger with every challenge." Lord Bright's form pulsed with pride. Not the arrogant pride of the past, but something more mature. "We hereby officially recognize Earth and its fleet as full and equal members of the Stellar Alliance. Furthermore, we recommend that all Alliance vessels be retrofitted with human engineering principles." The vote was unanimous. In just 1 year, humanity had gone from being mocked as primitive to being recognized as essential partners in galactic civilization. As the ceremony concluded, a young Alliance engineer approached Wilson with a question. "Commander, why didn't you tell us sooner about all these advantages of human design?" Wilson smiled. "Sometimes the best lessons are the ones you learn for yourself. Besides, would you have believed us?" The engineer's crystalline form flickered in acknowledgement. On the screens above, a new hybrid ship launched from the shipyards. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't unbreakable. But like humanity itself, it was adaptable, resilient, and ready for whatever challenges the galaxy might bring. The galaxy had learned an important truth. True strength isn't about being perfect. It's about never stopping to improve, no matter how many times you get knocked down.